This is a special podcast presentation from 700WLW.com. This is Darryl Parks On Demand.
The 2-week-old nightmare is over with. I'm back. I have facts. I have figures. I have the numbers, and I'm calling people out today. And I'm going to put this in terms you can understand. Well, I can understand, too. Because they're yelling billions, they're yelling trillions, and I have said this numerous times, but I think it needs to be repeated this morning. Has there ever been a trillion of anything in a room? It's an accounting principle. It's just a bunch of zeros. It's unreal. Really is what's going on. I'm Darryl Parks. Good morning. About 6 after 9 o'clock on another beautiful summer weekend in the tri-state. So, I'm going to talk about the default today and the malfeasance that's going on in Washington. We're going to talk about pledges these clowns are taking and why, well, that's not a good thing. And I'll explain. We'll talk about our future as deadbeats. Remember years ago, the worst thing that could happen is you being called a deadbeat? You know, welshing on, on a loan you have or welshing on a bet. Not anymore. It's okay to be a deadbeat. When, at what point, what year did that become acceptable? What year? Issue number 2. When you're elected to office, what's your job? Anyone? McFly? Anyone? What's your job? To manage our money, tax dollars. Your job is not to get reelected. Your job is not to hobnob with the elite. Your job is not to retain power. Your job is to be fiscally responsible with tax dollars on whatever level, whether it be city, township, county, state, federal, whatever level, that is the job. Correct? We're all in agreement. Good. Like yesterday, the news broke here on the big one. I'm listening in my office, and there goes Jeff Henderson and talking about how there has to be millions upon millions of dollars cut in the city budget in Cincinnati. Well, here it is, the end of July. 7 months ago, the council in Cincinnati did nothing. Remember that right before the holidays? The budget debate. Should we cut some cops? Should we cut some firefighters? Or what about all those code members, huh? And 7 months later, the city of Cincinnati has to cut another 5 million, whatever it is. They're talking about, about 40, 45 police officers. And in that 7 months, the criminal president of the code union is revealed, or accused, I should say, of stealing $750,000. $1 of every 2 collected. Sadly, they're all lying to you. They're all in business to become millionaires. Every one of them. I read a poll this past week where 46% of people polled think politicians and think Washington and all those in Congress are corrupt. 46%. I mean, it's like a high. The highest it's ever been, I guess, since they've done polls like this. So what they're saying is 54% think that these people are honorable and doing a good job. And ironically, when you think about that number a little bit, 51% of people pay no taxes. Over 50% of people get a government handout. So it makes sense, 54% think, yeah, they're honorable people. Hey, they're taking care of me. I don't have to pay any taxes. I'm living free. Man, when I go down that road, I don't have to pay for it. You know, when I go to that school, I don't have to pay for it. You know, when I do, I don't even have to work. I just get a check. If I got laid off, man, I don't have to work for 2 years. I can get unemployment for 99 weeks. Ka-ching. So it makes sense 54% of the people think that the congressmen and the senators in Washington that refuse to do their jobs are honorable. And that's sad. Truly, truly sad. So come next week, if the country defaults and we become a country of deadbeats, a country that ought to be put in a debtor's prison, and the economy craters, who gets hurt? You mean the millionaires that represent us in Congress? Well, they don't get hurt. Their pension's guaranteed. That 401k you have, they don't have a 401k plan. We have a government pension. We have no relation with the little guy on Main Street. We have no relation to the guy in the middle class or lower middle class. Our pension is guaranteed. Our health care, guaranteed. They don't live like you. They don't live like me. In fact, if you're a public employee, hell, you can retire at 55 after a number of years. I'm 51. Maybe 30 years ago when I got into the business, I should have said hell with radio, hell with media. What I should have done is, gone to work in the public sector. I'd be thinking about retirement right now with a guaranteed pension. That's great, isn't it? So, since the job of all these clowns in office is to manage our money and spend it correctly, if the unthinkable happens on Tuesday, I have a question to ask. And I'm stealing this from Piers Morgan, who asked the question Thursday night. If you've never watched Piers Morgan on CNN, watch him. In a typical British deadpan delivery, he asked this question of Charles Schumer, who is a senator out of New York. And I'm paraphrasing, but he said, so if the country goes into default and you destroy the economy, will you all have the common decency to resign? And I thought, wow, there is the question. Of course, Charles Schumer, he's a Democrat. He started pointing fingers at the Republicans. And then, on the show, Piers Morgan had Republicans who were pointing fingers at the Democrats, and they're just all turning this into a popularity or an anti-popularity contest, calling each other names, and making this about John Boehner, or making this about the president, Barack Obama, or Harry Reid, or, name the politician. And it's not about that. It's about the economy and a made-up crisis. That's what this is about. These jackals, and that's what they are, refuse to do the correct thing. These jackals would rather destroy your life. I'm not even going to say the economy. They would rather destroy your retirement. They would rather destroy your bank account. They would rather make sure you're paying $10 for a gallon of gas. They would rather make sure you're paying $10 for a loaf of bread than do the right thing. What they were elected for. Over these past years, and excuse me for a second, I'm still fighting this cold. Excuse me. Over these past years, I have said, don't trust any of them. They're all lying to you. Is there any doubt in your mind right now? Any doubt at all that they're all lying to you? Whether it's Boehner's plan now or it's Harry Reid's plan, this $14 trillion deficit is going to increase by 2020 to $20 trillion or $24 trillion. The hell does it matter? They're debating cutting expenses. And after the break, I'll lay out some numbers and the actual figures in an understandable way. They're debating nothing. Nothing. And there are many of you that are just falling lockstep, just falling in line and lockstep with your favorite politician. And just agree, oh, yeah, John Boehner's right. Oh, yeah, McConnell's right. Oh, yeah, Harry Reid's right. Barack Obama's right. They're debating nothing. Nothing. And yet there are many fools that believe these clowns. A made-up crisis, risking the economy of this country, and they're just wasting their time waiting till Tuesday comes around. Sad. Truly is sad. So, I'm going to give you the numbers in easy-to-understand terms as far as what they're debating and what this means and how overextended we are as a country. It may shock you. I'm Darryl Parks. It's 17 after 9 o'clock on the big one, 700 WL. Fox 19 storm tracker forecast from meteorologist Steve Horsemeyer. For today, it's going to be cloudy, hazy, maybe a few showers in the area. Popping up this afternoon with a high near 90. For tonight, a low down to 70. It's going to be muggy. And then tomorrow, sunny, hot, less humid with a high of 92. 78, 700 WLW. So, let's say you're looking at your checkbook, huh? And you have $172.70 in your checkbook. But you have expenses of $306. Well, you have to pay some interest, and that's $29. You have to put about $49.20 into your retirement account. You have to pay for a doctor, that's $50. And also you have to pay for police and fire protection, and that's $2.90. So now you have about $40 left. And you have to pay for gas. You have to pay for taxes, your school taxes, your electricity bill, your water bill may be due. And the problem is all of that normally costs about $175. So you're about $135 short. So this afternoon you have to sit down with your wife or your husband around the kitchen table, and you have to figure out, what aren't you going to pay? You're $135 short. Well, all those numbers, put billion after it. Because in the month of August, the U.S. government is going to have in revenues $172 billion and some change in revenues. You notice how they can't even say taxes anymore? It's all revenues. We have to figure out a way to increase revenues. What the hell is revenues? It's taxes. No matter what the party is, no matter who the politician is, they can't say the T word. It's a dirty word. Tax has become a 4-letter word. Ooh. We have to come up with another word. Revenues. That's good. Good. Revenues. Incredible. Those gasoline, the gasoline cost and the taxes, school taxes, electric bill, that is defense, tax refunds, food stamps, and education to Washington. They're $135 billion short. To you, it would be $135 short in your checkbook. So what do you cut? You see, these were all made, these were all promises, and tying the whole budget debate to this. I get that. I agree. Balanced budget amendment. I get all that stuff. I agree with it. But this has nothing to do with that. This has everything to do with money we've already spent and things we've already contracted for. A couple of weeks ago, Mitch McConnell came out with his Brainiac plan, the senator out of the Commonwealth, that, it's not, why don't we just hand it over to the president? And at that time, I put on my Facebook page, I said, wait a minute. Last time I read the Constitution, it was Congress's job to spend money and to appropriate money, not the president's. It was Congress, not the executive branch. So ipso facto, they're just trying to change the Constitution. They're playing hot potato. I don't want to do this. No, you do it. No. You hold the potato. No. You hold it. No one wants to do what they were elected to do. And as we move toward 2012, I don't want to hear about the popularity contest of John Boehner. I don't want to hear about the popularity contest of Gene Schmidt or Mitch McConnell or Barack Obama or whomever. Because if you trust any of them, you're a fool. You are truly a fool. I hate to be that black and white about it, but watching this circus with all the clowns, all 535 clowns, and let's 536 with the president, 537 with Biden, all wearing the red nose and the goofy red hair and the big shoes the past couple of weeks. It's embarrassing. It really is embarrassing. You want to know how bad things have gotten? You want to know? We have solved the whole illegal immigration problem. You think I'm joking? I'm not. The unemployment rate in Mexico is 4.9%. The unemployment rate in the United States of America is 9.4%. Mexicans are no longer coming across and sneaking across the border because they can't find jobs here. They're staying home and getting the construction jobs there. That is what has become the United States of America. Yeah, I thought I was talking to someone this past week, and they brought that up, and I thought, they're kidding me. I had to go look it up. Yeah, 4.9% unemployment rate in Mexico. Brandy is standing by with the news, and we have one open line for you at 513-749-7000, 1-800, the big one, pound 700 on AT&T. I'm Darryl Parks, speaking the truth. Don't be a fool. Do not be a fool. 700 WLW. Me on Facebook, facebook.com/Darryl Parks. People commenting on the debt ceiling debate. Chad Ocho Stinko. Good riddance. And also, I noticed something about perp walks this past week. One being the perp walk of Diana Fry, who was accused of stealing $750,000 from her union. When she showed up in court, she looked like a member of the Sopranos cast. And I'm thinking to myself, that's never a good look. Looking like a mob member going to stand before the judge. Not a good look. And then I noticed the picture of Stacy Schuler. She's the one that is accused of having sex with multiple students of hers at Mason High School. And she shows up in court wearing a low-cut top. Where's the upside, Stacy? Where is the upside? Not a good look. Business attire would be proper. And don't follow the business, or I should say mafia chic of Diana Fry with the sunglasses and looking like she's a made member of the mob. Incredible. Really, we'll get into that next hour. The stealing of money. And people just, and people, the accounting. No accounting. What? Don't worry about those millions. No, she's good for it. Come on. Simply incredible. 513-749-7000, the number here into the bunker on this Saturday morning. And Dave in Mainville, set us straight, buddy.
Well, Darryl, you hit it on the head, pal, and they're all just a bunch of clowns. But last night on ABC News, my wife saved this for me when I got home, and I listened to it, and I watched it, and I thought, this is very telling. They took, I think it was 6 people, put them in a room. I think they represented pretty equally divided. You had some Tea Party conservatives, you had some ultra-liberals, and then you had some moderates in there. And they said, okay, figure out the budget problem. What can you do? Within an hour, they came to agreement on $2.2 trillion that they could cut right now.
Sure.
Just that simple. Just that simple. And they listed the cuts, and I thought, this is something we can all agree to. It's not rocket science. And I just
Look at the end of
you
this.
You know what I almost wish? I'm not an anarchist, but I almost wish somebody would break in to the Capitol with a big giant machine gun, hold them all hostage, and say, "Now shut up, sit down, and you're going to figure this out right now."
First of all, that's a bad thing to do that's a bad thing to suggest on 50,000 watts, Dave. But
sorry, Darryl.
well, that's all right. But we are on the verge. I've said this for years. We're on the verge of a revolution. There's a class warfare going on. We are being ruled by a class of elitists. We are being ruled by a bunch of people that get in office.
Yep.
I'm gonna get into this a little bit later on this morning, but in fact, on my blog, if you go to it, I have all this information there. But over the past number of years, the past 4 years, there are 41 Democrats in Congress, senators, and in the House, where their net worth has increased 756%.
There's no question. They go in, maybe with 6-figure incomes, whatever, in portfolios, whatever, and they come out with 8-figure portfolios.
Well,
it's insane. It just drives me crazy, and nobody pays attention to this.
Right, and Dave, before somebody says those bastard Democrats, there are 39 Republicans. And their net increase has gone up 168%.
I hate them all equally, Darryl.
A number of months ago, I was talking to somebody, and I said, "Where did Mitch McConnell, the senator from Kentucky?" I said, "Where did he get his wealth?" And he said, "Well, when he went into office, he went into to service of the country. He was broke." And I said, "Really?" So in 2004, he was worth $3 million. In 2008. Mitch McConnell was worth, $16.9 million, which is a growth of $13.9 million. His net worth increased 453%. And I'm just picking on him because he's local on this list. But how do you do that, Dave? And you sound, we've talked before, and
sure.
You sound like a smart guy. So if you're making $170,000 a year, how does your net worth go up 453% over 4 years?
I don't know, Darryl, and that's the question that nobody asks, and yet people say, no, we don't need term limits.
Oh, we need term limits.
Oh, we need
Big
it.
time.
We need it desperately. And we need a constitutional amendment that says you guys got to live under the same laws that you pass for us.
Well, these guys are throwing around figures, Dave, and your point about that story on ABC News last night. You know what they're debating here? As far as the percentage of the budget, you know how much they're debating?
Like about $800 billion or something like that.
No. You have one side, the Harry Reid side, is talking about $909 billion over 10 years.
It's a joke.
Which is $90 billion over a year, right?
It's a joke. It's a joke. It's not. It's a drop in the bucket.
Right. And Boehner's side is debating $917 billion, which is $91 billion a year, which is about 2% of the budget. It's nothing. They're going through this exercise, and they're talking about nothing.
I know that Willie would agree to a lot of this, and I know that he has the ability to maybe sometime get Boehner on the show again. And if he does, I hope he rips him a new one. Well, because I think Willie probably would, and I hope he opens it up to the callers, because this whole thing has been handled in the most unprofessional, ghastly, abominable way that I can ever think of.
Well, Dave, I'm going to add one more thing before we end our call today.
All right.
They're debating $90 billion, $909 billion over 10 years. And all that they're debating, none of it is binding. None of it is binding to the next Congress. Look it up. Frisch's big boy, big play of the game. Last night, what a game it was, all the way to the 13th inning. Caller number 7, 513-749-3700. 513-749-3700. Good luck from Frisch's and the home of the Cincinnati Reds. 700 WLW congratulates Gordon Baker Hamilton, today's Frisch's big boy, big play of the day winner.
1-2 the count. And a line drive to right field. That's a base hit, and this one belongs to the Reds. Low line drive down the right field line. Fair or foul? And first base umpire Vic Carapazza signaled fair ball. Jay Bruce home from second. And the Reds have come up with a big win to kick off this 3-game series against the San Francisco Giants. Renteria the game winner, and the Reds a 4-3 winner.
Gordon wins a Frisch's gift pack, 2 tickets to a future Reds game, and also you're qualified for the grand prize trip to Goodyear, Arizona, and spring training 2012. From 700 WLW and Frisch's final score last night, Reds 4 and the Giants 3 in 13, as you heard Marty Brenneman call it late last night here on the big one. Other sports, you got Chad Ochocinco. I saw on TV he was wearing number 85. I was kind of hoping they'd give him 87 or 88, 81. Any number but 85 for the New England Patriots. Good riddance, Chad Ochocinco. And then our beloved Bengals. Our beloved Bengals. Do you know what they did in the dark of the night? They signed a quarterback. You probably haven't heard it. You ready? Are you ready for this? We are talking SB Super Bowl. Jordan Palmer. They signed him. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Oh, Lord. This past week when the strike, the lockout was ended, I kept reading stories about how the players won. I kept reading stories about how the owners won. And these guys successfully divided up $9 billion. And everyone came away as a winner, including the fans. The fans are going to get their football this fall. The fans are the big winners. I heard it on ESPN radio. I saw it on ESPN. I read articles on CBSSportsline.com. Headline, fans, winners, NFL lockout over. And I thought to myself, oh boy, this fall I'm going to be able to go into Paul Brown Stadium and pay $8.50 for a beer. I am a winner. I am a winner. You got to be kidding me. The stooges that cover the NFL, and that's what they are, stooges. They don't want, they will do nothing to risk their press pass. The fans aren't winners. Really, believe me, the fans aren't winners. You have billionaires that are now able to make more millions. You have millionaires that are now able to make more millions. And what do we get? We get to spend $8.50 for a beer. That is what we get. How are we winners? I'm missing that one. I really am. I mean, no one's forcing you to buy. No one is forcing you to buy the beer at $8.50. I know, but when you think about it, I've told the story on the air. Some friends of ours, a number of years ago, they were just so fed up with the Bengals, they offered to give us their season tickets. And we had to pay for the tickets, but give us the seat licenses. And the reason I won't buy season tickets for the Bengals is I refuse to pay for a seat license. So at first I thought, well, there we go. I'm kind of getting one on the side here, you know. And so I said, what are your tickets? He said, $5,000. I said, $5,000? I said, you pay $250 a game for a ticket? He said, yeah. I said, where do you sit, on the 50-yard line in the club level? I thought to myself, number one, there are other things I want to do on a Sunday afternoon. Number two, I'll be damned if I'm going to spend $600 on a Sunday afternoon to go watch a loser football team. I mean, no way. Wow. $8.50 beers. We are winners as fans of the National Football League. Hadn't heard it put in that way yet, huh? Yeah. 513-749-7000, 1-800-THE-BIG-1, pound 700 on AT&T. Oh, by the way, go to my blog, 700WLW.com. On my blog, as you know, the county just spent $307,000 for a K2 dyno replay system. I have a picture and a link to what the K2 dyno replay system does. Something else was purchased with the $307,000. Not to be a conspiracy nut, but if you head to the blog, you will see something is missing. You know, I'm in the media. I know what equipment costs. Trust me on this one. 8 before 10 on the big one, 700 WL. 10:06 this morning, Nathan Bacharach from 55 KRC's Simply Money joins us. We're going to strip away the politics and how will the cratering economy affect you? We have tips. We have insight. We pull out the crystal ball past Tuesday. 10:06 this morning. Also next hour, I name names. People getting wealthy by being elected to office, and also the cowardly nature of what's going to happen in Congress over the weekend as we head toward the debt ceiling deadline on Tuesday. Hello, Nan. How are you?
Good morning, Darryl. How are you?
I'm kind of fighting a little bit of a chest cold, but beyond that, I'm okay.
I am so sorry to hear that.
It happens. It's the summer.
And stuff's blooming. But anyway, I think we ought to make Mike Brown president because God knows he lives within his budget, and he always comes up with a surplus.
He sure does.
And he takes and spends from the people just like the government, you know, take and spend, take and spend.
Well, Nan, you're a fan of the NFL, aren't you?
Yes.
All right. I love watching NFL football on a Sunday afternoon, you know, especially when it gets cold. You know, September and October, I'm not so much. I like to work out in the yard.
Right.
Yeah, and I know snow is going to start flying pretty soon. So, but, you know, when you get into November. Yeah, when you get into November, you get into December, especially in January with the playoffs and leading up to the Super Bowl at the beginning of February. I love NFL football. But I don't consider
Are you ready for some football?
But I don't consider myself a winner as a fan when I'm paying $8.50 beers in an NFL stadium.
Well, I don't drink, but so it doesn't matter to me. They could be $50 beers, and I live within my budget, Darryl.
But how about a $5 pop?
$5 pot?
Pop soda.
Oh, pop. Mm-hmm. I thought you said pot.
No, it's more than that.
I thought, are they going to, I wouldn't know that either, but I thought, are they going to sell that at the stadium now and make a lot of money?
No.
Hey, I got a question for you, Darryl.
Yes, Nan.
Can you spend 7% more every year and not have a budget? And
I could spend 7% more every year, but I do have to live within my checkbook.
Oh, you know, all week long, I wanted to tape my head together and, you know, throw a brick on my head because this is just nuts.
Well, Nan, look, under either plan, which they're debating pennies in the grand scheme of things, either plan, whether it be Harry Reid's current plan or John Boehner's current plan, in the year 2020, the debt ceiling is going to have to be raised under Boehner's plan to $20 trillion and under Harry Reid's plan, $24 trillion.
This is insane.
Yeah, I mean all it is smoke and mirrors to keep people dumb. And when you think about surveys being done where 46% of the people think that Congress is corrupt, but that means 54% think they're honorable people.
Are
That's
like car
frightening.
salesmen? What is wrong with them? Daryl.
Oh, come on. I mean, I purchase cars from honorable people. Come on.
Oh yeah, we're all going to be driving a Prius.
Well, that's a blanket
we're all
statement.
going to be driving a Prius like
Nan,
Nick.
Nan.
Yes.
Nan, car dealer advertisers on the radio station.
Oh, I'm sorry. I love my car. I would not ride a bike or walk because I love my car.
God bless you, Nan. Have a great weekend. It's a minute before 10. Home of the Cincinnati Reds, 700 WL.
This is a special podcast presentation from 700WLW.com. This is Darryl Parks on Demand.
6 after 10 on another wonderful summer weekend here in the Tri-State. I'm Darryl Parks, and our cries have been heard. You know how I've been talking about rewarding good behavior? Well, here's the thing. I had noticed that in local neighborhood taverns, they had been pulling out beer taps, domestic beer taps, taps of Miller Lite, Bud Light, and Budweiser, because it seemed that the beer companies had double the prices of the barrels, and the bars would normally make about 400% profit, and their profits were reduced on a draft to about 200%. And I said, we only reward good behavior. Well, it seems some of the bars in Anderson Township have heard our cries. This is fabulous news. It seems Anderson Bar and Grill has hooked up their Bud Light Draught tap again. We reward good behavior on the Saturday program. Also today the weekend is Anderson Days at Beach Acres. And there will be plenty of rewarding good behavior there tonight and tomorrow as well. That's always a good time. As far as summer festivals, right now, we go to our good friend Nathan Bacharach of 55 KRC's Simply Money. Nathan, as we sit on the brink of Armageddon, good morning.
Good morning. How you doing? So good behavior. You like the shows this week? I get to come on Saturday. Is that the deal?
That's the deal.
All right.
That's the deal. All right. So, Nathan, let's strip away all the politics because this has just turned into a political name-calling game. This guy's good, this guy's bad, or vice versa. Should the United States of America become a bunch of deadbeats, what does this mean to you and me and to the average guy listening right now?
Well, I got out of the crystal ball business a while ago, particularly with all the money that was flooding in the market, 2009, 2010. I guess if you want to get down to a really down in the dirt level, when everybody stops listening to us, they ought to go figure out just exactly what is driving the interest rates on the different loans that they have. All right, so if you look at your credit card, student loans, and let's take home equity lines of credit, which would be 3 right off the bat, all right? Now, the student loans are based on the 10-year Treasury. So, we default, that rate's going up, and at that point, that loan, whatever it is, you're paying more for it, all right? That's numero uno before we get to the big, whatever is going to take place globally.
All right, stop right there. How much is your payment going to go up?
Well, I'm going to figure at least 1% on that 10-year Treasury. So if you owe $1,000, that's going to be $100 on a yearly basis. Okay? If it's a credit card, this is the really interesting thing. A lot of credit cards and a lot of home equity lines of credit, Darryl, are based on Fed funds. That's the price that the Fed charges to lend money to banks. And so what's going to happen there, real interesting, that rate's not going anywhere because if you look at what our economy did in the first quarter of the year, it was up 1.3%. But if you take away the 2% Social Security holiday that we had, we were minus, my friend. That's called a recession. So we're already bleeped to be blank.
You are saying we're really in a recession where we keep hearing about how great the economy is.
No, Wall Street's doing fine. The economy is, Main Street's doing, I can't say it on radio. So that Fed funds rate is going nowhere. So if you've got a credit card that's based on prime, you're going to look at in the short term. Believe me, they'll figure out a way to rewrite this. But even if they rewrite it, Darryl, it's going to take 45 days of notice or 90 days of notice, depending upon.
You see, you're such a great guy.
Yeah, how's
They're
that?
going to find out ways to rewrite it.
Oh, no kidding.
Nathan, ways to screw you.
Yeah, well, I wear a lot of dry cleaning to work versus everybody else at the station, okay? So I have to find nice ways to say it. Oh, yeah, they're going to bench over, and it's going to be real quick, and that's going to be the end of that. But because of the laws that were passed for the Consumer Federation or whatever they call that, CF, whatever it is, they'll have to give you at least 45 or 90 days notice that this you're going to about to be get the big wazoo, all right? So if you're based on Fed funds right now or prime, you're doing pretty good. If you're based on the London interbank overnight rate, which is otherwise called LIBOR, that thing will start moving up pretty quick, and that also will not be good for you. So that's where on a real personal basis you're going to get it. Now, on a national basis, the way we're going to get it's real simple. And it was funny. We were throwing around the number 1%. I had a chance to spend about 20 minutes with Rob Portman yesterday, and he said, he sees 10-year treasuries going up about 1%. This is a smart guy. He's been he was a business person before he was a politician. On a $14 trillion debt, that's about $140 billion. And so if we mess around long enough, no matter which side of the issue you're on this, we mess around long enough, I guarantee you the cost of this discussion will be greater than whatever we come up with as a solution, and that'll be the really sad part.
All right, so we saw this past, was it yesterday, that the economy really isn't growing.
Oh, it's shrinking.
It's shrinking.
Yeah.
As you said.
And wait till they revise these new numbers.
Well, they went back to last year and revised numbers.
Yeah, well, they always do. I mean, I don't even know why we in the industry.
Yeah, why do they release it then?
It's like, let me think. Here's my best guess today, and you guys go play around with these numbers till we get you some real numbers, because I guess everybody's so impatient. Like, oh, tell me what it is. So it gets a little bit wacky. These numbers at 1.3% GDP, when they get revised backwards, then I think somebody's going to come with the organization that's supposed to say we're in recession. I don't think they're going to say we're in a recession. I think they'll come back and go, here's an easier way around this. We never came out of the first one. How's that, guys? And so we'll all feel better at that point, right?
All right, 55 KRC's Simply Money guy and money guru Nathan Bacharach joins me this morning. I came across a figure this morning that as far as domestic growth and product growth, it has to grow about 5% to have any measurable effect upon the unemployment rate.
You know what? I have no idea what it will take at this point, because you got to remember this thing. If you look back, these politicians, they don't like to lie. So what they do is they start leaving breadcrumbs, and eventually, like Hansel and Gretel, we go back and go, oh, so this is how we got in this little situation. Bernanke about 4, 5, 6 months ago started saying, we thought we were going to get unemployment down to like 8.6, a year or so from now. Now we're thinking it might be 9.1, and everybody kind of just glossed over that, and you kind of look back and go, oh yeah, he knew we weren't going anywhere 6 months ago, didn't he? Oh yeah. So I don't know what number it's going to take at this point, because like yesterday we see that Convergys is going to add 5,000 jobs. Oh, but they're in the Philippines.
Yeah.
They're in the Philippines. Oh, okay, well, that's helpful.
Well, what about all that? What about that big tax break they got to go to downtown Cincinnati?
Yeah, good luck on that. So the rest of the world may do fabulous. We may not do so fabulous. And then what's going on in our economy is, the debate really was, sometimes it's just a stupid number that hits you right in the face. Again, I mentioned I'm talking with Senator Portman, and he says, look, the budget this year is $3.7 trillion. We're going to take in 2.2 in revenue. Well, that's it.
That's right. Yeah.
What else?
We're upside down by about a trillion and a half.
Yeah, we're talking about $1 trillion over 10 years, and we're upside down like 1.5. Well, there you go. That's it. We're messed.
Well, Nathan, when you look at these figures and you look at the debate happening in Congress and on TV, and you're reading about it because that's your gig. These guys are talking about pennies.
Yeah, they're not even close, and I think in a certain sense, I hate to say this, they're both realistic. I think the Democrats are out of their minds if they think we can somehow not cut something from a $3.7 trillion deficit. All right, I think that's crazy. A balanced budget, on the other hand, good luck with it. With a spread as big as this is, that ain't going to happen. We're not going to get if you can't even get 2/3 of the House to go pass a bill, you're certainly not going to get them to pass anything about a balanced budget. So let's throw that one out, because whether I would like to see it or not isn't relevant. And let me just be very clear so people don't jump all over my throat. I don't get paid to figure out red or blue. It's all about green at this point. You're not going to get a balanced budget through. So let's just throw that one out and then get back to what do we need to do here. Now, personally, I don't want to give any government any of my tax dollars, if you're talking about raising it, until you get a budget together. I mean, it's crazy. You cannot talk about raising my taxes until you give me some sense of what you do with the money if I gave it to you. Otherwise, your track record would indicate you're not very good at using my money.
All right, so we make you the czar, and it's your job to go to Washington and figure this out. Mm-hmm. How do we correct this mess? Because there's no way to, at this, I mean, it's $14 trillion now. Right. Under both, I mentioned last hour, under both of these plans, this deficit is going to increase to $20 trillion, $24 trillion. Right. How does the government get out of this problem?
Well, I think the first thing is that the government and the country have got to stop thinking there's some easy solution here. You know, we wage a war for 10 years, longest war we've ever waged. And we said to ourselves when we started, we're going to do this off-balance sheet. Now, the last company that I knew that did something off-balance sheet was Enron, and we know how that ended.
Not good.
So why don't we simply say, well, this is going to cost X trillions of dollars. And by the way, just to take care of the wounded is currently estimated, because I do a lot of work with Yellow Ribbon Fund, Honor Flight, just to take care of the wounded from this war is going to be about up to $4 trillion. I mean, let's get a grip on where we are. Secondly, let's look at the budget that we can impact for what it is and stand up and say, folks, it's old folks and military. How do you want to deal with the military, and how do you want to deal with old folks? Because after Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security and the military, whatever else you're going to argue about, I don't care what social issue it is, and I'm sure, and people feel passionately about it, that's a total of 15% of the budget, so good luck with that one. And if you're going to do this without raising revenue, well, then it's going to get real tough, because revenue as a percent of our budget is going down and spending is going up, and that's why it's unsustainable. Mm-hmm. So old folks in military, deal with it.
Well, we are spending, the budget is what, north of 23% now of the GDP?
No, I can get that.
And the last time that happened was in the 1970s.
Yeah.
And thus, if any of you were around, or any of us, I was only a kid, but the interest rates were, mortgage rates were at the high teens, 20%.
I remember getting a home improvement loan at 18%, and I was thanking the banker the whole way out the door. Oh, thank you. I can finish my house. Thank you.
Now, Nathan, you and I were talking in my office yesterday, and I made the joke, and you hadn't seen it yet, but the company Apple has more money in its checking account than the U.S. government.
Yeah.
Does that shock you?
Well, I'll tell you, no, it doesn't shock me. And if you go to the cover story today of Barron's Magazine, they came right out and basically said, look, if you want to get 2.2% and get a AAA rating, because you won't be able to get that from the U.S. government, think about these names. ADP, ExxonMobil, Johnson & Johnson, and Microsoft all have a higher yield. And believe me, if you ask the man on the street, who do you have more faith in right now to pay you every month and to still be in business? You're going to go with all four of those: drugs, computers, energy. There you go. There you got it. And if you want governments that are now, by the way, now they've come up with a new term. It's called the new sovereigns. Oh, this is interesting. Businesses that we think are in better shape, besides Apple, which we'll just put at the top of the list, that are in better shape than the government that you might want. Texas Instruments, Amgen, Merck, UPS, and Oracle are all considered to be in better financial shape than the government.
Nathan, final question.
Yeah.
At some point on Tuesday, are we going to have a collective group hug?
No, because I think first off, Congress can do temporary borrowing. We're only talking about $225 billion. That's the interest on our debt for the year. We have that. The question is going to be who doesn't get a check in the next couple of weeks. So we have the money to pay it. That's why this is such drama. I mean, give me a break.
Well, you see, I mean, to your point, Nathan, we're in two unfunded wars. Costing trillions upon trillions. The wounded veterans coming back from these wars are going to cost, to your point, of $4 trillion in medical expense, and that's what they're talking about cutting.
Right.
There's something wrong. There is something wrong with these. There's something wrong with these people in the head.
I spent a lot of time with vets, and I'm going to tell you something. They are very concerned. They know what sacrifice. Anybody in World War II, they know sacrifice.
And to your point, Nathan, these jackals in Washington have no idea what sacrifice is.
None.
Yeah.
None.
All right, Nathan, have a wonderful weekend.
You did the same.
All right, we'll talk to you soon. Nathan Bacharach, 55 KRCs, Simply Money. We're stripping the politics out of it, and that is what to expect as the country heads towards, what are they calling it, Dedegammon or whatever. 20 after 10 on the big one. I'm Darryl Parks, 700W. Fox 19 Storm Tracker forecast. Chief Meteorologist Steve Horstmeyer says partly sunny later on today, hot and humid. Pop-up afternoon shower a possibility. High near 90. For tonight, hazy, warm, and muggy with a low of 70. And then tomorrow, sunny and hot, less humid with a high of 92. 78, 700 WLW. A traffic note for you. Westbound 275 near Loveland. The Loveland exit. Looks like a tie-up happening there. So if you're in a hurry, try to avoid that area. I knew it. Eric writes to D Parks at 700WLW.com. This past week, $307,000 was spent by Hamilton County to buy a K2 dyno replay system for Paul Brown Stadium. I guess this gives high-def capabilities. So when I saw what the system was, I went online and looked it up. And it is made by a company called Grass Valley. And if you're not in the media, you don't know what Grass Valley is. But Grass Valley is a television equipment manufacturer. And the switchers the video switchers that are used at TV stations, a lot of them are Grass Valley switchers. So anyway, I looked this up, and it's a good company. And I'm looking at what we got for $307,000. And as you may know, I'm kind of an equipment geek, so I pay attention to that. But I'm looking at this, and you get a switcher that is maybe a foot by 6 inches in size, and a 2-inch rack mount, which racks are where equipment is racked and installed, and it's about 2 inches high, and it fits into this rack, which is the hard drive. Now, there's software involved in that as well, and you have to add a couple of computer screens, which what do those cost over at Staples? About $200 maybe? And I'm thinking, hey, man, that doesn't look like that cost $307,000. So anyway, Eric writes to dparks at 700WLW.com. He says, Darryl, following your blog and a quick Google check, the same system, the K2 dyno replay system from Grass Valley, was installed at the Amsterdam football stadium, the soccer stadium there, and cost them $90,000. So where's the other $210,000 going? Once again, the county commissioners and Mike Brown bilk us, the taxpayers. What else are they getting for the $300,000? Believe me, it doesn't cost that much. No way. That is work for some investigative reporter here with an earshot of our sacred signal in the tri-state area. And we get to pay $8.50 beers. So it's really pretty good. The fans won with the NFL lockout. 513-749-7000 is the number here into the bunker this weekend. Frank, how you doing? You're on the big one.
All right, Darryl, how you doing, buddy?
Not too bad.
Long-time listener. How's Mom and her body?
Doing fine.
Okay. I just got a couple things to whip on you real quick. The government does this all the time. I was born and raised in Cincinnati, and I went down and worked in the coal mines for like 10 years. I was above ground for 3 and underground for 7. And then they finally passed a black lung bill, which I can't draw because I'm a smoker. Then anyway, they had to tack on a $7,500 cost of living to them, and then they passed it. Am I incorrect about this or not?
What do you mean, Congress getting a raise?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what did you expect?
Come on, I think $7,500 cost of living.
Well, you know, after the news there, Frank, I'm going to talk about some of the jackal senators and congressmen that have had their net worth increased by, I'm going to see if I can get the total amount here, just overall between Democrats and Republicans, the number is 41% increase over between 08 and 09. And I'll name names.
Hey.
Frank, I'll name names. I'm not afraid to name names.
When they have You have to forgive me because I'm 70 years old now.
That's okay. You're an experienced man.
Or something like that. But, you know, they have a State of the Union. They might as well have Catholics sitting on one side and Protestants and sitting on their side, and have a Pentecostal preacher up there at the pedestal. You know what I mean?
Yeah, all right.
It's a joke.
I understand, Frank. I agree with you. It's a joke. It is a joke with a capital J. 28 past 10 o'clock, 513-749-7000 is the number here. We have one open line. News time on the Big One, 700 WLW. Darryl Parks on the Big One, 700 WLW. Oh, I heard that the NASCAR spot there. You got the Brickyard 400 this weekend in Indianapolis, and I'll bet there aren't going to be traffic tie-ups. I'll just bet on that. So I have the facts and figures. If you head to my blog, 700WLW.com, look up Darryl Parks, search word Darryl Parks. I have it there. There's also a video on how your tax dollars are allowing those elected to Congress to become millionaires. And a lot of this has to do with insider trading. I did this show a number of weeks ago, and people were like, oh, Darryl, how dare you? I got a couple of emails from some political stooges. And they were like, Darryl, how dare you bring that up? Insider trading. I mean, it's happening. The politicians have insider trading information, and they don't have to follow the laws that someone like Nathan Bacharach has to follow that we had on earlier this hour, or me, or you. That's how they become millionaires. Check it out. It's on the blog, 700WLW.com. Because I've asked the question numerous times. If you're making $170,000 a year, after a couple of terms in office, how do you become a millionaire? I can't figure that one out. And then, of course, the politicians are all whining and we have to fly back and forth to our district, and we have to have two households. It's expensive to live in Washington. So if it's that expensive for you to be in office, how do you become a millionaire after a couple of terms in office making $170 a year? I haven't figured out that formula yet. So we have our good friend, and I mean, this is just offensive on both sides. You have the Democrats. For example, in 2004, when Barack Obama was a senator, he was worth about $300,000. By 2008, he was worth $3.6 million. He had an increase in worth of 1,100%. How does that work out? He was making $170. Stephen Latourette, who is a congressman out of Ashtabula, he's in the northeastern part of Ohio. In 2004, Stephen was basically bankrupt. His net worth was negative $4,500. Today, he's worth about $790,000. That's an increase of over 13,000%. Stephen, be honest with us, Steve. Stephen, we're calling you out on the big one, Stephen. How did you get a net increase in your worth of 13,000%? Stephen, did you do something that was beyond the salary of $170,000, Stephen? Come on, you can tell us, Steve. Then we have our friend Mitch McConnell. 2004, he was worth $3 million. In 2008, he was worth almost $17 million. Today, his net worth is $19 million, or I should say in 2009. His net worth was $19,900,000. That's an increase of 450%. How does he do that? How does that happen? Are they privy to information on how to increase your net worth that we're not? I'm just asking the question. Just asking the question. That's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with jackals. We're dealing with people that would rather play politics with your checkbook, would rather play politics with your pension and your retirement. You see, because whatever happens after Tuesday to our economy, if we fall into we all know we're still in a recession, but we fall into another recession, and this one's worse, they're not going to be affected because they're an elite class. They look down upon you, and they like to keep you dumb and stupid. And they like to hear talk radio shows when people are calling up and saying, you know, that Barack Obama, he's a great guy. Oh, he's the best. Look at what all he did. And they read off this talking sheet, and they read down the list. And then the next caller is, you know, that John Boehner, he's a great guy. And then they read down the talking point list. And Jean Schmidt, she's a great congresswoman. And then they read down the list of all her accomplishments. And it turns into a popularity contest. Every one of them, the 100 senators, the 435 congresspeople, the vice president, if they purposely, and that's what this is avoidable, if they, on purpose and for political reasons, destroy our economy, they should all have the decency to do what is right and resign. But you know, like people up, our buddy Steve up in the northeastern part of Ohio, our buddy Steve there, who's worth $790,000 now, he's not going to do that. Nah. Because he wants to be worth $1 million next year. 513-749-7000, our number. I'm Darryl Parks on the big one. 700 WL. Reds winners last night in 13, 4-3 with a walk-off single. Playing again tonight against the Giants. Our coverage starts with the inside pitch about 6:06 tonight. First pitch 7:05. Mike Leake on the mound for the Redlegs. 14 in front of 11. I'm Darryl Parks on the big one. 513-749-7000 should a line become available. And we have Danny. Am I going to be able to call you one of the last honest politicians?
How are you, Darryl? Good morning.
Danny Bupp, who is a state rep for the state of Ohio. How you doing today?
Well, I'm in Columbus. I'm the guest speaker for the Ohioans for Concealed Carry summer picnic they're having up here, listening to you driving north to Columbus. And I find it appalling that this president and actually those folks in Washington will not face reality and realize we don't have the money to continue to spend ourselves into bankruptcy.
Danny, your side's to blame too, buddy.
Oh, I understand that.
All right.
I understand, but here's the thing. Not only the seniors, but the veterans, those kids that are serving over in Afghanistan and Iraq, and we have no business being there.
Correct.
We ought to be bringing them home, but they're threatening to use them as pawns in this ridiculous stalemate.
Well, Danny, I don't know if you know this figure or not, but the medical bills of wounded veterans from those two wars are at some point going to top $4 trillion, and that's what they're playing with. And the individuals that are elected to Congress, and, Danny, I'm sorry I'm going to paint you into this picture because, you're an elected official. But, I look at the people in Congress, and they have no idea what sacrifice is about. And the people that are fighting these wars in Iraq or Afghanistan, two places at this point we have no place in being, and we have no place in nation building, that these individuals are the ones that are making sacrifice, not Chuck Schumer, not John Boehner, not Barack Obama or Harry Reid.
Our son's blood should never be spilled for anything other than something in the national security interest of the United States. And neither of those places do we have a national security interest.
That is correct. All right. Well, Danny, enjoy your speech today and enjoy C-Bus.
Hey, Darryl, here's the reality.
All right.
Right now, we've got thousands of Ohio National Guard troops that are preparing to deploy to the Afghan-Pakistan border to replace one of the active duty Army units over there. And I tell you, we need to get that war resolved. We need to bring all our guys home from Iraq, and we need to get out of Afghanistan. And I hate it would just really be problematic to me if we start seeing this all right before the election next year. That using these
Danny, you're a politician. You know exactly that's going to happen. Exactly what's going to happen.
You and I both know that that's wrong to use our military in that manner, and we need to replace those people in Washington that are doing it.
Well, I mean, it's no different than the debt thing. Your side, the Republican side, wants to raise it. Kick the can down the road there for about 6 months, raise it a couple of times before the election. The Democrats want to take it past November in 2012. So what do you think that's about?
The bottom line, we need to cut spending. We do not need to increase taxes on anybody.
Exactly.
That's class warfare.
Thank you, Danny. You said it perfectly. Class warfare. Hey, have a great time in Columbus.
Hoorah.
All right, take care. Danny Bupp, who is the rep for the 88th district here in the Buckeye State. Let's go to Jim here in White Oak. Jim, real quick, you're on the big one.
Oh, I can't be too quick, Dale. Dale, you're doing a great public service by pointing people on how these politicians becomes millionaires. Real quick, tale of three congressmen. George Hanson, Republican, tried to rein in the IRS in the 80s, went to jail for 2 years for nothing. Jim Traficant, congressman from Youngstown, got a rider that made the IRS go to court to take somebody's home. They took 10,000 people's homes without court in 1997. 1998, they only got 59 people's homes. Traficant went to jail for absolutely nothing, and I've looked into it. There's a book called Target Traficant. He went to jail for 7 years for absolutely nothing.
How about his bad tooth?
The hamster under there, I don't know. Yeah. But John Kasich, I'm not saying he did anything illegal, but he was a yes man to the establishment. They took him.
Jim, to your point.
They took him to Lehman Brothers, and he became a millionaire.
That's what I was going to say. The only person that went to jail was Madoff.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying Kasich did anything illegal, but if they took him to Lehman Brothers, all he had to do was get insider trading tips from people we trusted. I don't know that even happened, but he became a millionaire, and that's what happens.
Jim, when he was running for governor, he was on Willie's show, and I have the radio on in my office, and I almost fall out of my chair because part of his whole campaign was he's running, or he's an outsider.
Yeah.
And I went, I said, outside. In fact, I yelled it, outsider. Incredible. Hey, Jim, have a great weekend, my friend. John Kasich, the outsider. And there were people that believe that. Incredible. We are sheeple. We are sheeple. I'm Darryl Parks on the big. Friend me on Facebook, facebook.com, Darryl Parks. I was on vacation last week. Most excellent vacation in New York City. I have my vacation pictures, including my trip to Yankee Stadium. And my wife at Yankee Stadium. And pictures of the ball fields at the old Yankee Stadium. Yeah, that was a great time. That was some fun. Also went to Ellis Island and some thoughts about that. And you can add your comments. We have the debt ceiling debate going on. We have a debate about Chad Ocho Stinko and also the dress codes. If you're going to be heading in front of the judge, if you're accused of, let's say, stealing $750,000. The way to dress. Mafia chic is not the way to dress. So it's all on my Facebook page. Friend me, facebook.com, Darryl Parks. And Okeana. Ron, you're on the big one.
Hey, Darryl, does Boehner still have a man card?
A few people, Ron, emailed me and was wondering if I was going to, the executive committee was going to revoke his man card this week. I am waiting for him to cry. Once he starts crying, he's gone. It's gone.
You think it's Monday evening or Tuesday morning before he cries?
I'm thinking maybe Tuesday morning.
Okay. Another comment about that creep politician you just had on. Pull the troops out. What about all the guys that lost limbs and legs? Why don't we just change the the way we fight the war and do the right thing, get rid of those people.
Well, there's no reason for us to be there at this point, Ron. I am more concerned, Ron, with the injured veterans that are coming back, and the politicians in this debate talking about cutting checks to people that are serving right now that aren't injured, and they're in the theater in Iraq or in Afghanistan, and then looking at cutting the benefits and the medical help that this country. There is at no point this country should even consider cutting those medical benefits to the people that gave those sacrifices to this country.
Okay, well, I got to disagree with that politician. One other thing, is there any update on Miss Milky? You heard from her?
Miss Milky?
Yep. The lady sprayed the cops.
No update on that one. I'll check on that though. You're talking about the woman up in Columbus that had a few beers in her at a wedding, got into an argument with her husband, and she locked herself in her vehicle, and the police came and told her to get out of the car, and she said, "Back off, I'm armed." And when they opened the door, she pulled out her right breast and sprayed the cops. Ken Brew coming up with Sports Talk at 12:06. He'll be talking about Chad Ochocinco and, of course, the big quarterback signing we had last night. I don't know if you heard the Bengals signed a quarterback, Jordan Palmer. I understand he's still looking for a place to stay after he had to move out of his brother's basement in Indian Hill. But looking forward to the Bengals season. Yep, we're the home of the best Bengals coverage and, of course, the home of the Cincinnati Reds. 700 WL.